Welcome to another episode of Inspired Voices, the reality show edition. I'm here with my fiance, Sybil.
Hello.
Hello. So last week we got through Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. This time it is Episode 3 and 4. It starts off as a doozy.
Always.
What's the title?
The Book of Retribution.
There we go. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's heavy.
And accurate.
Right.
We open at the Halloween party.
Yeah.
They're still arguing. Shocker.
Taylor, Dakota, Chase, they're arguing.
I mean, Layla also calls out Chase, something along the lines of, get your moment, get your 15 minutes.
Yeah, and get out.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Chase's girlfriend is crying. I can't remember her name. I think I have it somewhere in here.
Yeah,
His girlfriend is crying. She's crying to Miranda, being like, I feel stupid. I want to leave here. And I was like, girl, follow those instincts. This is not good.
Right. Call an Uber.
This part was really funny. Miranda tries to check Chase, but she's still wearing this crab outfit. So she comes in and she's like, leave. Yeah, but she has crab claws on. It's just like...
But she didn't realize it,
She did it, and that's the part where I was like, this is so genuine. Because she is mad, and she's like, this is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You don't need to do this. You need to leave. But she's so mad that she's forgetting that she's dressed like a crab, and it looks nuts.
That's funny.
And I was cracking up at that part.
Yeah.
So Miranda is trying to get Chase to leave, but instead of Chase leaving, Dakota storms off.
Yeah. He leaves, yeah.
And, so Kate is Chase's girlfriend. Then she also leaves crying. And then, so when Kate leaves, Demi has been kind of upstairs, downstairs. She's dressed like cereal.
Yeah.
She's upstairs, like, helping them get ready for Chippendale stuff. But they can also hear people yelling. Mm-hmm. So she goes downstairs, and as Chase is kind of walking around creating chaos, she says, hey, your girlfriend just left crying. How about you go check on her?
Right.
And then Chase comes back with, where's your husband?
Right.
But he, like, touches her.
Right.
And keeps walking. And then...
I think it's, like, more of a poke.
He imitated a poke later.
Yeah.
But it's like, poke her around the world. Because then Demi's like, he just touched me.
Right.
So then she goes to her husband, Brett.
Yeah. Brett!
And says, he put hands on me.
Right. Ooh. Stretching the truth.
Technically, he put a finger or a hand on her. Uh-huh. But when you go to your partner in particular and you say, somebody put hands on me, Brett immediately, that's all he has to hear. That
people think that, he hit her.
Right. Like, he hit you in some way. He
grabbed
disrespected you. Like, he really, like...
But
not
touching for a split
second. To Brett's credit, that's all he needed to hear.
Yeah.
And then he was like, where is he? And he was real. And then Demi was like, I feel bad for him now. So Brett thinks he put his hands on her, which, semantics here.
Yeah. And so as Brett was wearing the Chippendales outfit, which is basically just pants and a bow tie.
Yes.
And then so he goes and chases Chase outside and is like, Chase, come here. Mm-hmm.
I heard you just put hands on my wife. Chase, who has been bold and bad this whole time, gets real meek real quick.
I just went like this. Where's your husband? Where's your husband?
I just said,
where's your husband?
And then he was like, you need to go apologize now.
Yeah.
So Chase walks back to Demi. Everybody's kind of outside the house at this point.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, Jordan, who is Jesse's husband, also doing the Chippendales thing, has also come outside because this is their house.
Yeah.
And Chase walks back up to Demi.
Yeah.
And instead of apologizing right off the bat, he kind of starts to justify it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, no, I just did this. And then you hear Jordan yell, apologize. Like,
damn.
We don't hear Jordan a lot.
He's a little chipmunk, you know what I mean?
The chipmunk, the Chippendale.
Yeah.
We don't hear him a lot, but he was not having it.
Yeah,
and I was just like, well, look at you, sir.
Oh, damn, okay.
Because it is his house. And he was like, we don't put hands on women. Like,
apologize.
I was like, sir.
Tell it like it is.
And then Chase back, like, once again, he was like, okay. And like,
I'm sorry.
And like, that's the thing. It became very clear very quick you just have to come at him in a way that is like, no, here's what you're going to do. As a man, because I don't really think he respects women. But like as a man, they shut that down.
So then he ends up leaving. Yes.
He leaves. We don't know where his crying girlfriend at.
No, she disappeared.
He leaves. And then, then Taylor goes inside and she hugs Miranda, and like Kate, the crying girlfriend, Miranda, and Taylor are all standing around each other. This is when Miranda finally realized she has the crab hands on.
Yeah.
She takes them
as
off.
She's crying, I can't believe I had these crab hands on.
So they seem to be getting along. Like it's ironic. Like the women seem to be able to have like these rational conversations. It's kind of like when we're mixing the groups of the husbands and the wives is when things are going left. More in a more explosive way, shall I say?
True. And then, is this where the sirens kick in?
This is where the cops come a-running.
Yes. And then, Jesse?
Yes.
Jesse goes outside to meet the cops and is like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, there was some disturbance. People were in an argument. Then they took it out here because we asked them to leave. But everything's fine now. And then she's like, oh, the cop kept asking questions and stuff like that. And then she's like, do you watch Secret Life of Mormon Wives?
No.
Yeah, no. I was like, oh, wow. I only say that because like, it was the easiest way to explain it. But, no, we were just arguing and all that stuff.
We also find out that her and Jordan have only been in this neighborhood for 2 months.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're going to get kicked out.
Yeah, not a good sign for first-time movers in.
Also, do I feel bad for her? No, because she invited all of those people hoping for mess.
Right.
And she got what she hoped for.
She did.
It made a moment. There you go.
So whose house was it? I'm confused.
I think it is Jesse and Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, everything calms.
Yeah, Jesse said the reason she invited Chase in the first place was to hash out things.
Not your business, girl. Not your business. Were you swinging? No.
Yeah.
Then take several seats.
Exactly.
What are we doing? You wanted your moment. You got your moment.
Exactly.
Be careful. Because she's trying to, like, it's very, I'm going to be a bone carrier. Like, I don't have a storyline of my own, but I'm going to start mess. And it's like, okay, seen it, done it. You ain't doing it well.
Right. Messy.
So after all of that goes down, they still decide they're going to do the Chippendales dance. Yeah. And they were like, we don't know if it's going to bring the mood down or bring it up. And it's like, well, honestly, there's nowhere to go but up at this point. People
and honestly,
crying. I
I thought they were just going to dance, but they ended up pulling Jen and seating her in a chair.
Yep.
And that was a surprise. Even more of a surprise that Zach was right next to Jen when all of this was happening.
It's basically like if I was getting a lap dance right now and you were sitting right here.
Yeah, that's how close it was. And that's awkward. That's awkward for Zach.
That is awkward. I was getting secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah.
Because then, like, you see Jen and, like, she's pretending to enjoy it, you know, doing one of these and, you know, all that. And, you know, the audience is seeming to enjoy it, and they're just looking at Zach for reaction.
Yeah.
And they're like, he looks pissed, you know, but he kept it together. The dance they didn't, from what I saw, they didn't touch her.
Right.
You know, they danced in front of her and around her.
Yeah.
And then they actually went, like, towards their wives.
Right.
And, you know, got a little grindy.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like that was like poking the bear on purpose.
100%.
Looking for a reaction.
That was mad disrespectful.
Mad disrespectful.
Like, if you know this has been a huge issue in their relationship, that man told her, I don't love you and you're a horrible mother.
Yeah.
For even being in the Chippendales building.
Yeah.
She didn't see him dance.
Right.
She didn't do nothing. She ended up leaving beforehand, sobbing. And then you're like, let's throw this party. Let's have Shayla last. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Right.
So I did think that was super messy. But then finally that party ends.
Yeah.
And we end up going to Michaela's house. We're finding out more about Michaela this season as a person. And I'm really liking that.
Yeah.
It's still Halloween. We see her taking her kids out to trick or treat with her family.
Yeah.
We meet her two sisters who dressed up as her and Whitney, which was really funny.
Right.
And then we find out, like, we get some things on a deeper level.
Yeah. kind of find about her past and how she was sexually abused for years.
Yeah.
Until she was 15 years old.
Yep.
Which is wild.
Yeah, especially because I think she, from season 1, is also one of the wives who got married at like 16. And like, that's a lot. And she says, you know, I feel like I came at Miranda from a place of anger because that's what we do in our family.
Yeah.
You know, and she also said something really interesting that I think, you know, she may be onto something here, is she has a lot of autoimmune issues.
Yeah.
Either her skin is good and her internally, like, something's going on with her body, or her skin is bad and internally her body's doing better.
Well, I think it's her body's good, face is not, and then flip-flop.
Right, so that's what I mean by skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And she says she feels like not expressing her emotions is manifesting in an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
You know? And then when you start thinking about the trauma and her history and all these things, it's just like,
Yeah, that kind of tracks.
You know, and like, I truly am just like, I hope, she's so young. And like, I hope that, you know, she'll end up doing the work to get all that worked out.
Yeah, well, she says that maybe I need to go to therapy to heal. I was like, yeah. After going through all that for years, I would say that's a good idea.
Like, even if you're not going through horrible traumatic things, therapy, my opinion, always beneficial, because there's always something new that we can work on and work through. Like, we're dynamic things. We're changing. We're not static. Things don't always stay the same.
Right.
You know, so then if you know, compile on all of this stuff, it's like 100%. Please go. You know,
Right, yeah.
Please go. It works out for you and everybody else.
For real, yeah.
So then we go from like that real deep stuff to Jen and Zach.
Yeah. I think the only
And,
thing I wrote down was Jen is toxic.
I think that might be fair.
Yeah.
As we start to hear more things. Not that Zach's a walk in the park, but something there.
Something's off.
So Zach thinks that Jesse and Demi don't have good intentions based on Chippendale's performance.
Yeah.
And we find out, this once again with the timeline, this was 4 days after their meetup.
Yeah.
Which is also like, y'all just met up and had this stuff, and like 4 days later, it's less than a week. Y'all gonna do this?
Right.
Okay. But then we find out that Jen knew this was gonna happen. And that flipped everything on its head for me.
Yeah.
And you see, I love it when producers come with a good receipt.
Right.
So you see the shot where she's like, oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, and then they told her the exact things that we're gonna pull you in, gonna put you in a chair, we're gonna see Zach's reaction, and they're gonna come down, dance on you, blah blah blah.
And then it's like, wait a minute. And like Zach was like, she tells Zach, well, they had mentioned it, but I thought it was in a joking way.
Yeah, but no, not from the clip we saw.
No. And then she was like, you know, but after the party, you were frustrated with me.
Right.
And I don't want you to be frustrated with me. And it reminds me of the Vegas incident.
She's holding on to that.
For dear life.
Yeah.
Because it's like he was so wrong that you're going to have to move heaven and earth to ever be right again. But two things can be true at the same time. He was wrong about that. He's also right about this.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't keep friends around me who, if I had friends, like, we'll reverse the situation. If I was watching you do a lap dance and like they were trying to get my reaction and like always putting us in situations where they were trying to test me and I'm not married to them, we got beef. We got a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, these friends are great for you and us.
Right.
I'm not. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So Zach at this point, like, he's trying to get his point across, but they're like at an impasse.
Right.
They're just coming against each other. They go around and around, and Zach's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, because she's starting to paint the picture back on him.
And he's like,
And
I'm
he
not
is
getting
not
this
having
turned
it.
on me.
No.
And he's like, I need a break.
Yep.
Walks off.
And
Asks the
she's like,
cameras to
okay,
go down.
just walk away, and then we'll never get, be together again.
She says, I want to have this conversation openly on camera.
Yeah.
And we're just like, what is going on? And you can tell he's trying to be very careful about what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, he ain't dumb. Like, he's learned. Mm-hmm. The camera doesn't lie. And it will tell on you.
Yeah.
You know, and even in I think he goes to a confessional after that, and he's still trying to be very careful about what he's saying.
Yep.
It was a very...
He puts his head down at one point. He's like, I don't want to talk bad about Jen.
Like, exactly. And it's so weird seeing the change from last season to this one.
Yeah.
And it now kind of seems like she's saying whatever she wants and all these things that have been built up all this time.
Yeah.
And he feels like he can't.
Yeah.
Because he went so nuts last season.
It's wild that she's holding on to that.
The power dynamic has shifted.
Yeah.
But it's shifted in a way that is still unbalanced.
Right.
And there still needs to be, if that's going to be your husband, there still needs to be some respect there.
Yeah.
And it's...
No respect.
Look, it's not me, so do you, boo.
So then we move on to the pumpkin farm.
Really quick.
Oh.
We see Whitney give birth.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then we
That's
move on to the pumpkin farm.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's not worth a lot. Like, it was like 2 seconds.
Yeah, her water breaks.
Yep.
They go to the hospital. She had a boy.
She had a boy.
It was a surprise. They weren't
Yeah.
going to know the sex until the birth.
And that was her 3rd baby. I remember the last season, I feel like they did a surprise too.
Yeah.
Or maybe she was just getting pregnant. I can't remember.
I don't know.
More power to them. I could not do a surprise. I need to know.
Yeah.
Like, tell me so I can prepare. But yes, now we move on to
The pumpkin farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, was it Demi, May?
it is like basically all of them.
Yeah.
Except for Whitney, because she just gave birth.
Right,
And probably
yeah.
wouldn't have been invited anyway.
Uh-huh.
And Jen. Those are the only 2
Yeah.
who weren't there.
That's true.
Which is like a theme.
So they all like gather around at one point at a table, and they're pretty much talking bad about Jen at this point.
Bad and or facts.
Yeah. And then Miranda's like, "Oh, so you all don't like Jen?"
She's
trying to gain
catching
some
on.
insight. You know what I mean?
They talk about how Jen is doing things to bite herself in her ass.
Yeah.
You know, and the, kind of the inconsistencies of what she's saying. Eventually, they all go into a corn maze.
Yes. Except for Taylor and Miranda, who sit back and actually hash things out.
Yes. In like a nice, like calm, like actual mature way.
Yeah. And at first, Miranda was still saying, no, it was only kissing.
She doubled down.
Doubled down in front of Taylor.
To which Taylor is like, Taylor clarifies. Because it did get weird. Taylor clarifies and says, well, I didn't mean sex, but people were doing things with everyone. And you can't just say it's just kissing. And then she describes it, and they're actually in 2 like separate individual interviews where they're doing side by side.
Yeah.
And Taylor goes, so we had sex in the shower with our husbands, but we were all in the shower having sex at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we had sex in the bed with our husbands, but we were all together having sex at the same time. And then she had a drunk makeout with Miranda, and they filmed it, which I'm also just like, I'm sure there was probably some heavy petting and all of those things. And when she describes it, I'm like, yeah, you can't exactly say that was just kissing. And like, while you may not have had sex with somebody else, that's not like typical behavior of, you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a bunch of people having sex in the same room at the same time.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different.
Yeah.
Like
And then-
nobody was looking.
Right.
You want to take a little peek? Like, you know?
So then Miranda was like, well, she's not lying.
Right. And she's finally like, I'm like, okay, because I guess it took for Taylor to literally have to describe everything that happened.
Yeah.
And I guess she did say they were playing a game where you had to kiss someone else's, you had to kiss the husband's, like, guess who it was.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, yep, she wasn't lying.
Right.
And I haven't noticed that they actually seem to have a real friendship here.
Yeah.
It was because then Taylor, once again, starts like going in on herself. And she says, a Taylor from 2022, I wish she wasn't here. I wish it never happened. And I just feel so bad. Like, how could I have done that? I wasn't a good friend to you.
Right.
You know, and then Miranda's like, well, I wasn't a good friend to you either.
Yeah.
You know, and it just seemed genuine.
Yeah. You know, Miranda was trying to cheer her up, saying like, hey, you know, the things that happened in your life made you who you are now.
Yeah.
You know, so.
She wasn't like being like, you owe me an apology and you blew up my life. Like, it wasn't one-sided.
Right,
they were
right,
both
right.
taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this now, and I hope I'm still right, by the time the season ends, the next season, that like it is a genuine thing.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But I liked it. I felt like it was a nice interaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Miranda was telling Taylor just to give herself grace.
Yes.
So, yeah, thought it was good.
And that's why I'm just like, someone please tell this girl to give herself grace. I feel like, once again, she needs a hug. Then we go from kind of one serious topic to another, and we see Michaela.
Yeah.
And she has gone to see a sexual trauma specialist.
Yes.
You know.
Which I'm surprised that she wanted to film, but it also just, I guess they didn't really say everything, just like the beginning parts and stuff like that.
My guess is, they didn't go through the whole session.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But, you know, she saw her. I thought that was good. And she gained a little bit of clarity.
And hopefully she'll keep seeing her.
Yeah.
You know. Then we go to Whitney. And, I thought that was interesting. And this is why it's, you know, she's had the baby. And we hear a knock at the door, and Taylor has shown up to Whitney's.
Yeah, surprised.
And I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, are they friends now?
Because remembering, Whitney didn't go to Taylor's baby shower last year, and Taylor's mother had to call Whitney and be like, why aren't you here?
Right.
Macy also shows up, and it sounds like Whitney reached out to Macy at one point to try and hash things out, and they're in a place of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I think Taylor's like, look, I don't have beef with her, so this kind of is what it is. They hold her newborn son, which was adorable. And then Whitney asked them about the Halloween party.
Yeah. So basically, a whole recap there. We don't need to go through that again.
And Whitney admits she wants to come back to Mom Talk. Because, you know,
Did
we
she?
didn't know that.
To them?
No, it was in a...
The conventional thing. Yeah.
It's like, we all knew that. That's why you're here.
Right.
And why you quiet and nice right now.
Yeah.
Because you were real loud and wrong like last season. So, that happened. And then we move back to Jen. And we see Jen driving back to her house. And she's doing the voiceover talking about how she feels so isolated from everybody.
Yeah.
And then we see she has a pregnancy test.
And I was like, oh, shit. She is 10 days late. And so Zach's on the couch with the kids. She's like, do you want to do this with me? And he's like, yep. And then so she goes and pees on it. And then they start to look at it and come to find out she's pregnant.
And she's weeping.
She is weeping. She's supposed to be happy, she says, but she is sad.
Yeah, their life's in a very different spot. She's like, to bring a child into the world is a big thing.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, she is 25 years old, about to have her third child. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I think back to when I was 25 and I had I was like, no, like I need, like, no, I got things to do.
Yeah.
You know, and that wasn't it. And I just think about, I couldn't imagine being 25 with 3 kids.
Yeah.
You know.
That's wild. I would not be prepared.
And then you're in a marriage where you're like, you don't really look like you want to be in this marriage.
Yeah.
It's a lot, you know, and you need all the support you can get and maturity. And that's,
yeah. All the lies and stuff. So.
But that wraps up episode 3.
Yeah, pretty much. Hell of an episode.
Honestly, it's giving. I'm so interested.
Yeah.
Like, I much prefer it to what we had to watch with Love is Blind.
That's true. Yeah, especially that last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I definitely, it's giving me different feels. And you know, from watching it with me, I talk back to the TV a fair amount.
Yes.
So this is making me do that, and I appreciate it.
So then we move on to episode 4.
Book of Taboos.
Ooh.
And we open with Layla. Finally, we get some Layla.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yes.
She's been on the back burner for a while.
Yes, we get to see her, you know, and her clip in. That was rude of the producers.
Yeah,
they did not have to tell her to fix her in the back. So we open,
and they kept going to it too. Just because they have the shot of the other person.
I don't think you had to shoot it that way. I feel like you could have shot it a different way, where you didn't have to see that girl's clip in.
Right.
So we open with Layla and her new boyfriend. They're in like a Ferris wheel situation.
Going really fast too. That Ferris wheel was going fast.
I feel like you feel like the Ferris wheel was going fast.
No, it was going pretty fast. It was
There is nothing wrong with a good fast Ferris wheel. So we find out she still hasn't had an orgasm.
Right.
You know, because we needed to know.
So they talk to. Oh no, they have a sex conversation.
Yeah, she says, but the sex is good.
Right.
You know, and we find out. I don't remember her boyfriend's name. I'll figure that out.
I forgot.
But we find out. So his dad is a bishop in the church.
Yeah, and he's a sports. Damn, I had it. I don't know.
Is that something with sports?
Physical therapist?
I don't know.
Damn.
If he was a physical therapist and he hasn't figured out a way to give her an orgasm yet, that's a problem.
I can't remember what he does, but yeah, his dad is a bishop though.
So, you know, there are a lot of responsibilities in the church.
Yeah.
And we also find out that, like, his parents don't know that he has sex.
Right.
Except he's saying it on TV.
So now
they're gonna.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we'll see how that goes. But honestly, I was just happy to see little Layla. I was like, all right, bet.
Yeah.
And then we move on to Taylor, Macy, and Michaela. They go to brunch.
Yeah. Brunch Hard is the name of the place.
I know. You were like, that's a great name.
Yeah.
It is.
Like, I would want to go to a place called Brunch Hard.
I know. I would just love just like all we do is brunch restaurant close to us. Would love it. So of course, Taylor says they start talking about, you know, Halloween party, just everything going on. Yeah. Taylor says she checked up on Dakota after he left the party because even though they were still fighting, but because of his history, you know, with drugs and everything like that, she's like, this could be life or death.
Right.
So I want to check up on him.
Yeah.
She says she's been cordial with Miranda. Which I'm like, okay, also real. You don't just jump back into a super intense friendship after all that, but you start with, you know, just being cordial.
Yeah, that's true.
Macy tells Taylor that her and Dakota still fight like they're together. And they need to work on themselves by themselves.
I don't think she liked that comment. But she needed to hear it.
I think Taylor is just tired of everybody asking her and or telling her what she needs to do.
Yeah.
Because she's just like, I don't know. Right.
And
I think she does know. She just doesn't want to say so. And I also think it's really hard when you also don't get any family. When all of your families like stay together though.
Right.
Which I'm just like, wait, what? And like they do some flashbacks to them doing couples counseling, which I'm also just like, well, clearly they're not over if they're doing that.
Yeah,
like, I don't really get it. Taylor ends up in tears again and acknowledges she has issues with self-worth. Like Taylor is weeping every episode.
Yep.
Macy reveals that she got a confession about someone sleeping with Demi's husband when she was away. And they were like, huh. And I think that is going to, you know, be a big theme later in the season.
Yeah.
And then they talk about Jen and Zach. And Jen telling the girls that Zach is allowing her to be herself. And then they were like, allowing? Really?
I don't think she knows how to articulate things correctly.
I actually think she is using the right words, but she doesn't understand that like words have meaning. And like when you say that, yeah, your friends are going to look at you left and your husband.
Right.
When it's like he's allowing you to be yourself. And also because like, then she's so excited about it.
Right.
He's allowing me to be myself.
But at the flip side, I don't think Zach would word it that way either.
Probably not.
No.
Like, no.
No.
Not this season anyway, for sure.
No,
like,
not at all.
Yeah.
But I think it's from her trauma, her experience in the past that she's holding on to. That's why she's articulating it that way.
And I think for her, it's also easiest to point to Vegas because everybody saw it.
Right.
You know. And speaking of Jen goes to Miranda's house. And it's
like the only person that she could probably confide in.
And even this part, she's not really confiding. She's asking more questions.
Oh, about divorce.
And co-parenting. And it was very much giving, you asking for a friend or you asking for you?
Yeah.
You know, and Jen...
She hits a breaking point.
She tells Miranda she feels so alone.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought at that point she was going to be like, and I'm pregnant.
Right,
but she didn't, which was smart because you don't know Miranda like that. And I think she was 10 days late, so it's real early.
True.
Jen says that Demi and Jesse keep putting her in these situations like Chippendales, and she can't go to them because they'll just tell her to leave Zach.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because in the meetup they had with all 4 of them together, I think it was Demi who was like, I'm actually team marriage and I've told you to work it out. You know, which I'm just like, I don't necessarily know if that's true, but there's just, there's a lot of blame. I feel like Jen blames everybody else for all the things.
That's what happens when you tell your girlfriends all the deepest secrets about what's wrong with your relationship. They're only going to see it from that perspective.
And in any relationship, you have to be careful about how much you disclose to other people.
Yeah.
Because you love your partner.
Right.
So you may get over it. Your friends and your family may not.
Right.
And they will always just be like, So you have to be very careful about figuring out, you know, because it is a balance, because you do need support and you need to be able to talk about certain things, but you need to be careful about everything you say.
Yeah.
You know? So Jen also says she feels she's distanced herself from church and from God, and it's hard to know everything right now. I feel like Jen is also going through just a crisis of identity.
Yeah.
She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know what she wants, but she's in a situation like you can't just walk away from this.
Right. Well,
and
her
there's no harm.
identity was marriage, you know, and
Marriage and mom talk. You know, and mom talk was potentially going to be taken away with his medical school, but then she was like, no, because you're treating me terribly, blah, blah, blah. They're doing counseling. And she's 25.
Right.
You know, knowing who you are and being that confident at that age with all that stuff, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So then we get into an awkward encounter with the men.
Yeah. Zach, Brett, Jordan, they're golfing. Zach confronts Brett and Jordan about, like, I thought it was very disrespectful that you guys danced, gave my wife a lap dance and touched her without consent.
Yes.
Something like that.
He was like, well, that's assault, because he compared it to what Chase did.
Right.
When I was like, wait a minute.
But, you know, I feel like the Brett and Jordan kind of changed his perspective and like made him realize what actually is happening.
They handled it so well,
Yeah.
and so much better than I thought they would for reality TV. I will be 100% honest.
That's true.
I thought, especially seeing how Brett and Jordan reacted towards Chase when he crossed that line, I immediately was like, oh, they're going to hurt this little boy. Like, it's going to be a thing. They didn't.
Yeah.
You know,
they made him understand where their perspective was coming from,
while also standing in their truth.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated, because Jordan, he does not talk much.
No.
He tells Zach that Jen was wrong, and because he was like, she knew. They told her what was going to happen. I thought you were in the know, my guy.
Yeah.
You know?
And if I would have thought for a millisecond that you didn't know, I wouldn't have done it.
They also said she had the choice about whether or not you could be included in the lap dance and chose no, which once again, mind blown.
Yeah.
And then it made me feel less like Jesse and Demi and their husbands were getting in the mess because they told her and essentially got her permission to do it.
Right.
Which I'm just like, oh, which also then brings back to, this is how reality TV messes with you. And if we didn't know that, it would have completely different opinions.
Yeah.
You know, and then Brett says something along the lines of like, Jen's truth may change slightly depending on who the audience is.
And I was like, yes, that's exactly what's happening.
But he said it in such a like respectful way.
Yeah, he did.
That was just like, hey, like he didn't call him out his name, he didn't belittle him.
Right.
And he wasn't disrespectful about Jen. He just said like, look,
be mindful of this might be happening.
That right there.
There you go.
And they seemingly like squashed it.
Yeah. He's like, if it's true, then that sucks for me.
Another tough conversation.
Yeah.
So like mature conversation down, and then we go to we have like a little clip of Taylor and Dakota's therapy session. And we're getting like a lot of these like flashback scenes, and we see something where Taylor's like, my ex would have defended me, like, and, against Chase and all of that. And she says like she feels like they had a little bit of a breakthrough, because Dakota's like, well, I always felt like I was good at defending people. So that is something, like I'm sorry for, which I was just like,
Yeah.
interesting. They probably don't need cameras in their therapy session, honestly.
They don't.
Move on from that, and we get to Demi, another party. So we are having
Vagina.
we're not having a vagina.
Vagina cupcakes. Vagina themed sex party. It's a sex party.
It's not vagina themed. It's just a sex party. So Jesse and Demi are throwing Layla a sex party to help her finally have an orgasm.
Yes. One thing we did not know from this beginning of this episode is that Layla can't come until she's married. That's what she said. Not a fun fact that I want to know.
You may have to bleep that out.
She can't until she's married. She can't until she's married.
Do not.
No?
No.
How do you want me to do this?
She can't finish
She can't. Okay.
until she's married.
She can't finish until she's married.
Which doesn't make any sense because she was married. She's a divorcee.
Oh, yeah.
That don't make no sense.
That's interesting. But she also does not know anything about sex, apparently.
She doesn't know about what pleasures her.
That's true. Yeah. So they have this party. They have vagina cupcakes.
If you say vagina
have-
cupcakes one more time.
They have whips. They have different sexual pleasure toys and stuff like
Everyone's
that.
in lingerie.
Yeah. They have a sex
Expert.
come in.
Miranda tells the group that, because once again, they basically pump Miranda for information about Jen because she's the only one who's talking to Jen.
Yeah.
And Jen's the only one who's talking to her. So they're talking, and Miranda tells the group that Jen is asking a lot of questions about her divorce. And they were like she's asking for herself?
Uh-huh.
She was like, yeah. And Miranda says that Jen said she didn't know that other people would be involved in the Chippendales thing. And then they're like, wait, what? And then Jen shows up. The ladies, and they kind of put a pin in it because Demi's like, it's really about Layla, so I want to, not hash this out right now.
Right. Yeah. So
And
they continue on.
they just start talking with the sex expert about what arouses them.
Yeah.
This is where we find out Layla doesn't know.
Yeah. What do you mean? What pleasures me? I don't.
Which is also very sad. And she was just like, well, my partner, the look in their eyes.
Right, yeah.
And then Demi was like, no, what pleasure you? What arouses
Take
you?
take your partner out of it, and what pleasures you?
She's like, I don't
don't know.
know. And then she puts two and two together. She's like, I should probably know. That would help.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, girl. What kind of marriage were you in?
So then they start kind of testing,
Playing with the tools.
Yes.
Sensation play is what she called it.
Yeah. And then come to find out, Layla likes spanking.
Well, she gets handcuffed to find it out. Like, she gets handcuffed and learns she likes it hard and rough.
Yes. Hard and rough.
Which maybe why she didn't realize what she liked, because she might not have been getting it hard and rough.
Interesting.
And then they're like, oh, well, now that she knows she likes it hard and rough, Jen, let's go back and talk to you. So Demi asked Jen about her and Zach, which I'm also, and I think at this point, we're starting to get the asides, the interviews, where other people are starting to talk about Demi. And Taylor's like, I think it's interesting. She's always asking.
Yeah, that's true. Like, they're starting to realize what Demi is doing.
It is true. She is always asking, girl, what's your business?
Yeah.
You don't care?
Yeah.
So Jen is very coy. And she says they're doing better as of today. As in, like, that day.
Yeah.
And then she says that she just wants to keep it between her and Zach for right now.
Right.
Which, finally, good decision. Keep your mouth shut.
Right.
Because you're saying too much and you're saying different things to different people and you get yourself in trouble.
Facts.
That's why you shouldn't lie, because you can't keep up with your lies, especially when it's recorded. And then we kind of round things out with Macy and Michaela. They are like preparing for this like dinner party. And we find out that
lunch?
I think it was dinner because it was dark outside, but maybe it was lunch.
No, I think it was lunch because it was light outside.
So they're preparing a lunch like, to announce that Macy has gotten a book deal.
Yeah.
All the ladies show up, including Whitney, who we find out is 3 days postpartum.
Right.
And I'm like, girl,
Take your ass home.
Maybe because it's your third, you got it like that.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But I would just be like, leave me alone. She just pushed out a whole human.
Right. Yeah.
So then we see the producers start to get a little messy. Because Macy's talking about her book and how her dad had given her this journal. At one point, it was like, write it all down. Good, bad, ugly.
Because one day you could help people with it. You know?
And like she's kind of crying. And it did seem genuine to me. She's like, I've been wanting this for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then the producers cut to Demi.
Yeah.
And she has a stank face.
Yeah, she does.
She does. Everybody else is like, oh. And she's like.
She got this jealous look on her face.
A little bit.
A little bit.
It was a little stank.
A little stank.
And it wasn't just like momentary. Because I get it. Like, I get having like a resting bitch face.
Right.
But I don't think that's what that was. Like you crack a smile and then you go back to your resting bitch face.
Yeah.
But the producer asks, I want to say Jen and Taylor, but definitely Jen, and says, Demi seemed jealous. And Jen was like, yeah. She's got like the biggest insecurities of all of us. Like she co-signed.
Yeah.
You know, and then Macy tells the group that she is hosting a celebrity pickleball tournament in Arizona.
And the look on Demi's face after that?
Still same face.
Still the same face. Jealousy all around.
And she invites everyone because that's going to be a girls' trip.
Yeah.
And then Michaela, who is very fastly becoming my favorite, says, am I the only one who has a brain?
Right.
This is a horrible idea.
Right.
Why are we doing this? Bad idea.
Yeah.
And then, you know, to double down on the bad ideas, Macy then asks everyone to tell a secret.
Yeah. Because that went over well the first time.
Of course, truth box.
Right.
You know, so everyone's doing the secrets. And honestly, at first, it's funny. You know, I had sex in 5 high school parking lots.
Right.
You know, I once let somebody lick my toes and then left them.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. And then it ends with Taylor's secret, who she, you know, they pass them around, obviously. It wasn't her saying it. And it reads, I think Jen is fake. And then the episode, like, they pan to Jen, who looks like she's about to cry.
Yeah.
And then the episode ends.
Which I think it's clearly Demi.
Yeah. In the preview, we see somebody saying, well, it's either Demi, Layla, or Michaela. 100% think it's Demi.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like Layla or Michaela actually care enough at this point to be like, let me ruin this environment.
Who was with Demi talking with Jen and Zach?
Jesse.
Jesse.
That's Jesse and Demi are always together.
Okay, so I think it's either Jesse or Demi.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Because Jesse loved messy Jesse.
Yeah.
She loves to stir up some trouble.
For sure.
But Demi, like she is, I think Demi's so mad because she also feels like Jen was trying to throw her under the bus with the whole Italy situation and insinuate she cheated. Yeah. But it's also just like time and place. Time and place. Macy's having a good moment. It's about her, and now you're about to turn it into you think Jen is fake. And also, if you think that, say it with your chest. Yeah. That's not, and also, it's not a secret. Like, we all know.
Right. So that ends the season. I mean, the episode.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really excited to get through the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a good one.
Yeah. So I think we, yeah, for sure. I think the season is gonna be crazy, and it's gonna get even more crazy. So we'll see if the cops get involved again, and stuff like that in the future.
I hope so.
So that does it for episodes 3 and 4 of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, season 2. Stay tuned next week. We're gonna release 5 and 6, and then 6 and 7. 7 and 8, and 9 and 10. And then we'll be done with the season.
For now.
Until next time. So if you have any comments, if you have any little teas that you want to spill about the show.
If you have any recommendations for other shows, because we are always looking.
That's true, yeah.
You know, to fill those TV slots, especially during the summer. Sometimes things slow down.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you have any recommendations on what shows you want to see recapped from us. And
don't hate on a good documentary either. Send that our way.
That's good. There's some good documentaries coming out and stuff like that. So. Okay, well, this is Inspired Voices Reality Show Edition. Sybil, Oliver, that's a wrap.